the Minnesota Department of Health to open the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline. They provide information on vaccines, booster shots, and testing sites. Right now, booster shots are available to anyone over the age of 18 for those who are eligible. The Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline can also help with housing, food, medical, and educational support. If you or someone you know has questions about COVID-19, vaccinations, booster shots, or testing, please call 651-304-9986. Again, the number is 651-304-9986. The Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline is open for calls Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Call the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline at 651-304-9986. Don't fall for vaccine misinformation. Local medical professionals are available to answer any of your questions. Initial shots and boosters are safe for people who are pregnant and even young children. Right now, vaccines are available for anyone over 6 months of age, while boosters are available for anyone over the age of 5. This message brought to you by the Native American Community Clinic. Find a vaccination site by calling 651-304-9986 or visit vaccineconnector.mn.gov.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
Hey, Ogimaa, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Showers and thunderstorms possible tonight with a low of 50. Then skies clear out on Wednesday with a high of 59.
I'm Angela Warner, and my grandpa Jim Warner taught us to treat customers like family. And to thank you for 68 years, Warner Stellian is offering unbeatable appliance savings. Go to warnerstellian.com for a $50 exclusive coupon.
Portions of Native Roots Radio may be pre-recorded.
It's a good day to be Indigenous.
Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Couldn't cut, didn't cut again.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake.
Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade.
Saw the decision come down, overturning Roe versus Wade, felt a little lost. How many of you were feeling a little nervous? How many of you were feeling a little tough? How many of you got to hear Peggy Flanagan speak at that moment? How many of you got to see an amazing woman rise to an occasion that has never needed somebody more? I am so deeply proud to be the other woman on the state, the statewide woman with, again, our hero, Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan.
To be here and to be in this space, in this room with all of you, 31 days before the election. Yes, 31. Who's counting? Counting every single day. But we are just grinding it out here because we are in the moment. We know what is at stake. We know why we are here. We know why our friends have come to be here with us because this fight is great. but it's a good fight, and we want a fair fight, and we are going to turn up and turn out this election. So I'm here with my daughter, who's going to be completely horrified that I'm talking about her. But, it's just how we roll. We roll together. And one of the things that has been incredibly important to me is that she knows who she is and where she comes from. And she comes from a community of strong, resilient people. She comes from a family of women who step up and don't stop, who care for each other, who care for their families, and that is in her. And so, but more importantly, my 9-year-old Ogimaa Giniw Ikwe is a skateboarder. She is a crossing guard. And she is now part of the student leadership team at her elementary school. Here's what I know. I know that I have big dreams for her. And she has big dreams for herself. And I know when the Dobbs decision came down, I did what many of us who were fortunate to be able to do so did. I called my mom. And my mom said, I prepared you your whole life for this moment. And she's right. She's right. And when I touched Siobhan in that night, I squeezed her in real close, and I'm sure she was like, oh, Mom, you're squishing me. But I thought, I don't want to live in a world where my daughter has fewer rights than I did, or a world where she has fewer rights than her grandmother did. So when we talk about access to reproductive health care for all Minnesotans who need it, what we're really talking about is making sure that our young people can achieve their hopes and their dreams, that whatever they want for themselves is possible. And so how and when and if our children decide to start their own families, decide that is part of their future, that is up to them. So this is what is on the line. We are an island of decency right now in the upper Midwest, of making sure that we can make our own decisions for ourselves, making sure that the deeply personal decisions that we are made are just that, personal, and not where the government will get involved. So every morning I wake up and I know two things. I know that I am here to make sure that we are fighting for reproductive justice. I know that I am here to make sure that every LGBTQ+ child in this state feels seen and heard and valued and loved and supported. I am here to make sure that none of us have to shrink or change who we are. That we can be our full, beautiful selves and bring our identities into every space and place, because that is the kind of state that we are here in Minnesota. 20 years ago, this year, we lost an incredible leader in our community, Senator Paul Wellstone. And so when 20 years, I was raised on the Wellstone campaign, and that's where I learned how to organize, and that's where I learned how to do this work. And here's one thing that I know. Paul loved field. He loved knocking on doors. He loved being out in the community, hearing from people about their hopes and dreams and what they wanted to do together. Not just elected officials out front, but what were we doing together as a community? And that is what this is all about. What our opponents are talking about, this version of Minnesota, I don't recognize it. Where some people are in and some are out, some are worthy of love and dignity and humanity, and some are not. I reject that. and I know that you do too. Minnesota is a place where we care about each other, where we want to lift each other up, where we're good neighbors. And so that is why I am here. That is why Auditor Blaha is here, why Representative Herr is here, why Steve Simon, who wants more people to vote, which feels like a good thing, and our Secretary of State, who believes in tending to and protecting our democracy, and our Attorney General, Keith Ellison, who truly understands what justice means and lives out those values every single day. We have an incredible opportunity in front of us. And sometimes I hear people say, well, I voted last time. Why do I have to do it again? Well, guess what, everybody? Democracy is a participatory sport, right? And many of us who are here, our ancestors did not have the right to vote until much later on. So when we go to the polls, I bring Siobhan with me, like my mom brought me to vote. And we fill out those bubbles, we talk about how we're voting, why we're voting, because I want her to know that she counts. I want her to know that she matters. So I am so grateful that you are here because you share that same vision. And one of my heroes is here with us today because she shares that vision too. Many of you have probably seen her iconic image, right, across your social media, right? And many of you know her by her official fancy title, which I won't say because here we know her as our auntie. We know her as someone who has stepped into a place that wasn't created by us or for us, but in many ways was created to eliminate and silence us. But every day she walks into that space knowing that all of us support her, knowing that all of us love her, knowing all of the love of the ancestors who came before, who surround her to do this work. And also someone who freakishly knows she will call you some morning and be like, something just told me to give you a call as she's making coffee in her apartment in the morning. I'm like, how did you know? So she's kind of magic that way too. But she's really important, and I am so grateful that she is willing to come here and to share with us just her wisdom and her passion, who is a living example of what is possible when we ensure that people are at the table, that decisions that are being made by us and for us are with us. It's a game changer. And we have a lot of candidates in this room as well. If you are running for office, can you just raise your hand really quick? Thank you.
Hey, we'll be right back after this short break with Robert Lilligren. And that was Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan. We'll be right back.
We are your relatives.
We are your relations.
Brothers,
sisters,
sons,
daughters.
And some of us are your grandchildren.
We are your community. Historically, we held places of honor and respect. Because of the impact of colonization, some of us are rejected, thrown out from family, friends, and community, set up as targets for sexual violence, sex trafficked, humiliated, tortured, and murdered. Everybody has the right to be safe. We are your relatives. Remember,
homophobia is not traditional.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Hey, Ogimaa, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
The Native American Community Development Institutes make voting a tradition is a culturally specific, year-round, multi-generational approach to increase voter turnout and civic engagement. The fundamental principle of MVAT is that Native Americans are more likely to become politically active when engaged by peers and family. MVAT has created partnerships with local, statewide, and national efforts to increase turnout in BIPOC and other traditionally low turnout groups. Go to NACDI.org, NACDI.org to learn more.
J&S Bean Factory is a Native-owned, community-supported, cozy, artsy coffee shop which offers roasted on-site beans, live music, and baked goods. Relax in the beautiful outside patio. City Pages writes, voted top 10 coffee shops. Tucked into a quiet corner of St. Paul's Highland Park neighborhood, this coffee shop roasts beans on-site from the best coffee-growing countries in the world. Located at 1518 Randolph Avenue, St. Paul. The good stuff.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot. This portion of the show is brought to you by Native Roots.
MN 350, a grassroots organization fighting for climate justice.
Oh, the anticipation was killing me. Hey, this is Native Roots Radio, and it's Tuesday, so it's Rock the Vote Native style. And you just heard from our Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan, and we're really excited to have Robert Lilligren on a day or two early. We're preempting Thursday show, Robert. I haven't told you this, but we have a special show with the late, it'll be an interview with, how do you say her name again, Ogimaa?
Antonia Gonzalez from National Native News.
No, I know Antonio. I meant who she was interviewing.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sasheen Littlefeather. She had the chance to interview her before her passing. I only know how to pronounce her name because I have a cousin named Sasheen. So.
Oh, perfect. And I threw it at you because I can't pronounce the name because, well, you know. Hey, we're all over Turtle Island and Civic Media Network, and I just want to give a shout out to all our brothers and sisters in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Illinois listening to us, and also a big shout out to AM 950, our mother ship here in the Twin Cities, Minnesota. And we're going to have Robert Lilligren on, and he's with the Native Community Development Institute, and we're going to talk about a few things, and one of them was I saw you at the early morning ceremony at Bede-Makaska. I wanted to say hi to you, but you know, you were busy signing autographs as usual, and
you were the one.
It's great seeing you, and it's great to start Indigenous Day in a good way like that. Now you're not on. Oh, you're muted.
There you go. Sorry, my headset's been going nuts lately. Wasn't that a beautiful way to start Indigenous Peoples Day? It was a sunrise ceremony on the west shore of Bede-Makaska, one of the more important lakes here in Minneapolis. Recent name change from a odious slaveholder name to closer to its original Dakota name. The weather was perfect.
Yeah.
The sun rose right on cue. It was the biggest one we ever had there. It was really something.
And we had Ilhan there, the governor there, the lieutenant governor there, and many other political figures to start their Indigenous Day off in a good way.
Yep, our congressperson, our U.S. Senator Tina Smith was there. A huge delegation of state representatives as well, some city council members. It was impressive, but the predominant presence was Native folks, and it was beautifully conducted by the LaPointe brothers under the guidance of their father, Lemoyne LaPointe, and it was something. I think this might have been after you left, Robert, and I'm sorry we didn't get a chance to check in with each other, but there were so many folks. But then we got visited by a McGizzy that came down that was really low over the water.
Yes, I was there.
I was there. Yeah, that was something too. A beautiful visit.
Yeah, and then I boogied to St. Paul, where we had our parade, and then I went to Wahi's fundraiser at the Minnesota History Center, and what a day!
It was beautiful. Yeah, I had to isolate. I felt bad. I had been isolating all weekend from an exposure, and so I felt okay being outside and masked. But I didn't want to go to any of those. I wanted to go, but I didn't go to any of those indoor events.
Hey, I want you to talk about before we get into what I want to talk about. I want you to talk about what's coming up. You have some events coming up here real soon up in the deep north, which we like to call it the deep north, as opposed to the deep south.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for the opportunity. And it was great to hear that Make Voting a Tradition plug that came on right before I did. So it's within our Make Voting a Tradition project at NACD, Native American Community Development Institute. And it's about a 9-year-old project now. And it's about engaging voters, not just around elections, but year round. And it takes a multi-generational approach. Right. So we really focus on young people who are going to be eligible to vote in just a few years, and then having young people engage their whole households, their elders, their aunties, and making sure that everyone who's eligible within their family is voting. And it's been wildly successful, I will tell you. And data shows us that if someone votes when they're 18 years old, they are so much more likely to keep voting throughout their lives. And so this little project, MBAT, has really drawn a lot of statewide and even national attention because of the really indigenized approach that we take. And this weekend, so we were recruited and funded to expand the work statewide. We call it our statewide table for Make Voting a Tradition. And through Make Voting a Tradition up in Bemidji, which is up in the Northland here in Minnesota, and it sits kind of strategically very near three reservations, three Anishinaabe reservations. And so there'll be an organizing training. It's Make Voting a Tradition. It's Native American Community Development Institute, and then the national organizational partner is Native Organizers Alliance. And it's about building power, right? Mapping power, building power, fundamentally organizing. And so it's called a Framework of Indigenous Power. And the training is open to anyone. You could still sign up. It's this weekend in Bemidji. If you go to the NACD website and look for Make Voting a Tradition, you'll find a link there. It's at the Northwest Indian Community Development Center, if you're familiar with that. It's a real hub of Native progress and organizations in Bemidji. But I would strongly encourage it. It's 2 days. You're going to learn how to map power, how to amplify power collectively within the Native community.
Wow, that's exciting. And I know our last Make Voting a Tradition, and a lot of groups up in the deep north really did an unbelievable job of registering 9,000 Native Americans that had never voted before or voted for the first time. And that's a game changer here in the state.
It is. And, Native votes, it's not a huge number, right? I mean, in some areas, it is kind of a huge number. But generally speaking, it's a fairly small number. And elections in this country are won by very small margins these days. And so in the 2020 election cycle, NACD and Make Voting a Tradition were part of a 7-state strategy, it was called, where the Native vote was identified as having the potential of swinging elections. And so we had coordinated strategies nationally. We shared strategies, and in at least 2 of the states, it can be demonstrated that was the Native vote that was the determining vote. It was in New Mexico and in Michigan.
Oh, okay. I thought it was Arizona, but I guess it was New Mexico.
No, it was New Mexico. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
now you got me questioning my own knowledge here, Robert.
Oh, no, don't do that. Ogimaa is looking it up real quick. You're right. I'm sure you're right. But that's exciting. And Wendy tells me I say a lot, but we really have kind of stepped forward as a group here in the United States. And I know we have counted ourselves more in the census, and we've come out of the darkness into the light to really push our agendas and our politics and people that are like-minded. And so I'm proud of our community, and I'm really proud of your organization. Make voting a tradition has really just helped out so much.
Cool. Thanks for those kind words. And, it's really interesting. A few years ago, I remember when the research was done around narrative change that resulted in the reframing Native truth strategies that a lot of us are working around. There was one of the pieces of data was that if you Googled Native American or American Indian images, the first almost 100 images that came up were all from 1915 or before. And now in recent years, that's changed mostly because of this kind of political engagement and presence that Native people are having now. When you have people like Congresswoman now Secretary Haaland, who I know I think we're going to hear from in a bit. You have Lieutenant Governor Flanagan, you have Congresswoman Streets Davids. These are what come up now when you Google. And then, of course, shows like Reservation Dogs and things. So
Radio.
Yeah, right. So telling our own story.
Robert, can you hold on? And I think what we want to do is we'll start out the next segment and play a Deb Halaand. It's like a 6-minute thing, and then maybe comment on that if you don't mind.
Yeah, great. Love to. Thanks for asking.
Excellent. Hey, you're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Rock the Vote, and we're here with Robert Lilligren. We'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us. Hey, Wendy, what are we doing for dinner after the show?
How about we go to J. Selby's on 169 Victoria Street in St. Paul? They have a delicious plant-based menu that's compassionate and environmentally sustainable.
I'm getting their spot-on vegan Big Mac, the dirty secret.
You can pick up and they deliver within a 5-mile radius, or you can call them at 651-222-3263 or visit jselbys.com.
Well, you sold me, Wen. Let's go order at J. Selby's tonight.
I'm hungry.
Minnesotans age 65 plus might qualify for Health Partners Minnesota Senior Health Options. The plan includes personal support, coverage for medical, prescription drugs, and dental, plus over 30 extra benefits. Eligibility information is available at healthpartners.com/oneplan. Health Partners is a health plan that contracts with both Medicare and the Minnesota Medical Assistance Medicaid program to provide benefits of both programs to enrollees. Enrollment in Health Partners depends on contract renewal.
Hi, I'm Claire Ferreira, president and owner of Standard Heating and Air Conditioning. Ever since my grandfather founded Standard over 90 years ago, word-of-mouth advertising and referrals from our customers have always been important. That's why, after serving over 500,000 customers, we're proud to have a 4.9-star average rating out of 5 on our online reviews. Check them out for yourself and find out more at standardheating.com. That's standardheating.com.
Standard Heating and Air Conditioning has some spooktacular savings that are so good they'll scare you. Right now with Standard, you can save $1,500 or more on a new furnace and AC combo. Plus, save an additional $100 on a new UV light or electric air cleaner with purchase. And don't forget to ask about 0% financing and installing a water heater with your purchase. But don't delay, as these spooky savings are only good during October. Visit standardheating.com. Standard Heating and Air Conditioning, providing the comfort you deserve since 1930.
Seward Co-op is now offering convenient self-serve and prepackaged hot options and salad bars at both the Franklin and Friendship stores. Breakfast items available daily until 11 a.m. and brunch served all day every Sunday. Their weekly lunch and dinner menus highlight cuisines from around the world. They offer vegan, vegetarian, and gluten-free options daily. 95% of the ingredients used are organic from small-scale, local community food producers whenever possible. More at seward.coop.
Hey, Tom Harvin here, and you can catch me live every weekday from 11 to 2 following the Stephanie Miller Show right here on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Join Quorum as they celebrate their 29th annual National Coming Out Day luncheon presented by U.S. Bank. This inspirational and transformational luncheon gives voice to the power of living openly, honestly, and with authenticity at work, in our families, in our faith communities, and across our lives. The realities of living an authentic life are deeper than being out. We all have many layers of identity, and we must work together to create a world where people can bring their whole self to everything they do. The National Coming Out Day Luncheon serves as a celebration of who we are individually and together. Reserve your tickets today for Friday, October 14th. This year's National Coming Out Day Luncheon will be at the Hyatt Regency Hotel at 1300 Nicollet Mall in Minneapolis. The Marketplace Expo opens at 10 a.m. and the luncheon will begin at 11:45. Tickets are available for members for $75 or non-members for $90. Learn more and purchase your tickets in the event section at TwinCitiesQuorum.com. That's TwinCitiesQuorum.com. With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Showers and thunderstorms possible tonight with a low of 50. Then skies clear out on Wednesday with a high of 59. The Great Wall has been serving up authentic Peking and Sichuan favorites for over 40 years. The Great Wall is located on France Avenue along the Minneapolis-Edina City line. Check out their menu at greatwallrestaurant.us.
You're listening to Native Roots Radio. This is Spirit from Reservation Dogs. Get up and listen.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
Hey, this portion of the show is brought to you by Make Voting a Tradition, a project of the Native American Community Development Institute in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Hey, and we just happen to have Robert Lilligren, who is the CEO of the Native American Community Development Institute, on today with Rock the Vote Native Style all over Civic Media Network. A who to all our relatives out there. Hey, Robert, I want us to maybe listen a little bit to Deb Halaand, and then we'll comment a little bit on it. It's about a 5-minute little speech here. And it's,
I love to. I was so sorry not to be there. So I love to hear it.
Yeah. Very good, very inspiring. So if you don't mind, Ogimaa, let's let her rip.
Absolutely gorgeous in the fall. So good on all of you for living here and for going to college here and all of that stuff. And it's so good to be with every single one of you. I want you to know that I have a deep connection to Minnesota. My dad was born here. He was raised when my dad's family immigrated to the United States in the late 1800s. They first went to Iowa and then they came here to Minnesota. My dad was raised on a farm and was taught about the beauty of Minnesota, quite frankly, and it never left him his entire life. So he made sure we were outside all the time, even when we didn't want to be outside. Right, it's beautiful here, and I'm really happy to be here with all of you. And let me just start by saying that as Democrats, we're lucky to have a man like President Joe Biden leading the way. Because for him, leadership is about public service. No matter the odds, no matter the distractions, he's laser-focused on getting things done for working people. President Biden and Democrats have not just been working for working people, they've been delivering. And we can see that right here with our amazing candidates who are running for re-election, which all of you are going to get re-elected. Look, President Biden, the Inflation Reduction Act, which Congress passed without a single Republican vote. You believe that? But I'll bet you anything they're all going to start taking credit for it as it's rolling out. Am I wrong, Ken? Not at all. And President Biden signed that into law. It will lower energy costs. It will lower prescription drug costs, capping the cost of insulin at $35 a month. Drug costs at $2,000 a year for folks on Medicare, which I know is incredibly important. So yes, it will lower healthcare costs. It will bring down the deficit, which will help fight inflation, and it will make our nation's biggest ever investment in fighting the climate crisis. It'll do all that while making sure big corporations pay their fair share. The Inflation Reduction Act also builds on the CHIPS Act, which will bring down costs and is already helping create manufacturing jobs right here in the United States. Democrats were also able to make the PACT Act law. We will finally help to ensure our veterans who were exposed to burn pits and toxins while they were serving have access to the health care that they deserve. Thank you to our veterans for serving our country. This is work that builds on the American Rescue Plan, which has helped create millions of jobs, and the bipartisan infrastructure law, which is already getting started repairing our roads and bridges. It builds on the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, which is the first major gun safety bill in decades. And it builds on his effort to appoint an historically diverse slate of judges, including Justice Ketanji Brown. This is a record we should proudly share with voters. You can talk about this when you're knocking on doors. You can tell people, remind them what the Democrats have done. And the list can go on and on and on, depending how long they let you stand at their door. But if you engage them, they're likely to want to hear more. This is a record we should proudly share with voters. It shows Democratic leadership stands up to special interests and in stark opposition to the GOP. We took on Big Pharma to bring down drug prices. We took action to take on oil and gas companies. We stood up to the special interests that have blocked progress on climate change for decades. We took on the NRA, which has paralyzed action on gun safety. While Democrats were taking on special interests and leading on action to get things done for everyday folks, Republicans were pursuing an extreme MAGA agenda. Extreme abortion bans in so many states across the country, threatening our health care plans to cut Social Security and Medicare, continued efforts to attack our sacred right to vote. And that's why November's election are so important. It's about a choice. Do we empower our president to keep building a better America? Or do we elect Democrats up and down the ballot who will fight for working people everywhere? Or do we allow the MAGA extremists to take our nation backward? Which way are we going? Forward or backward? Forward! It's a simple choice. And I believe the people of Minnesota will side with Democrats because you're awesome. But we've got to make our case and do the work to earn their votes. None of this comes free. We have to lace up our tennis shoes. We have to take our water bottles. We have to walk and walk and walk and knock until your knuckles are bruised, quite frankly, because this election is that important. So I hope that all of you are as fired up as I am, because if I could, I would knock every single door with you. But know that I have done that for decades, so I understand how much fun it is. So I want all of you to get out there. Thank you for volunteering. Thank you for being here. Thank you for realizing that this election is the most important election of our lifetime. And have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Wow. What did you think there, Robert? Inspiring?
It's so inspiring. Yeah.
And talking about things that have been done, and I don't know in my lifetime if somebody as administration could say that they've done this much in 2 years.
It certainly has been a while, hasn't it? And I just think her whole approach to energizing volunteers, she's so positive, really listing those accomplishments, which are real, right? She's not making them up. And I think we're so quick to, I don't know, be more defensive, to sort of follow the mainstream media narrative that, oh, it's a midterms doom and gloom for President Biden's party, and I'm not sure that's what's going to happen. And I think that Secretary Haaland is right. It's up to us to, make it so, do the work, make our case, and we have some currents that are kind of working in our favor. The Dobbs decision, that is having an impact, on the Supreme Court decision on reproductive rights, that's threatening reproductive freedom. That is motivating people. I've heard the term Rovember. Have you heard that? Yeah. And it's, the January 6th hearings have been effective at showing the very real threats to our democracy, and that's motivating people. So I'm not sure it's all doom and gloom, and we're not doing ourselves any favor by buying into that narrative that's what we're working against. And I just thought Secretary Haaland coming out in this positive way, really listing very real accomplishments is exactly the right tone.
Michael Moore, and I've been a fan of him as a documentary person for many, many years, starting out with, what was it, Finding Roger or something like that? When all those,
yeah.
What was that?
I don't know.
But anyway, so he predicted before the election
Trump would win, right?
And then he also predicted that Biden would win. And now he's predicting that it's going to be a blue tsunami. And don't listen to people like CNN and MSNBC. These people, I don't know, they legitimize the Republican base by even bringing it up as news.
Right. And as Michael Moore argues, then that starts to impact the outcome, right? If everyone thinks it's a foregone conclusion, then it zaps the motivation of voters to get out and, to vote against, to express their voice. And yeah, I actually wanted to talk about Michael Moore, so I'm just thrilled, Robert, that you went there. And I don't know if folks are following him, but he's doing, I think he calls it 40 Days of Tsunami, where every day he argues why he thinks that there is going to be this blue tsunami. And he looks at races like, of course, the referendum in Kansas, the constitutional amendment that got overwhelmingly defeated, and it increased voter turnout like close to 40%, I think, over the last midterms. Is it Boise, Idaho, I think, where there was a school board race where a Republican incumbent lost to an 18-year-old high school senior Democrat in a city that went for Trump by over 70%. So Michael Moore's not listening to what's going on, in the loudspeakers. He's really looking at what's going on within the electorate, and he's seeing some pretty positive things. I would encourage folks to to follow him and watch his 40 Days of Tsunami come out.
Where is that that you're following him on Twitter?
Yeah, MichaelMoore.com.
Okay, cool.
His website.
Awesome. Well, we got less than a minute, Robert. I really appreciate you being able to come on and share with us these great speakers and speaking their truth. Do you have anything else that you'd like to talk about before we go? We got only 30 seconds left, or we could hold over for another segment. It's up to you.
I got a dash. I'm sorry, but I just this whole vote thing. Get excited. Elections are not magical. They're hard work. Like Secretary Haaland said, we have to do the work. We have to make it happen. So make sure you're voting, your family's voting, your neighbors are voting, your coworkers.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And thanks for jumping on. That was Robert Lilligren of Native American Community Development Institute here in Minneapolis, the Twin Cities. We'll be right back with a little news with Ogimaa and me. You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. Rock the boat, Native style.
Hey, Ogimaa, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf, their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
As we head towards colder weather, it's important to make sure you're up to date on vaccinations and protected from COVID-19. The Native American Community Clinic is now administering the updated Pfizer bivalent booster. The updated bivalent booster helps protect against the original COVID-19 strain and against newer Omicron variants. And it will help restore protection that has decreased since previous vaccinations. People aged 12 and older are now recommended to get an updated bivalent booster dose at least 2 months after their last COVID-19 shot. That means the bivalent booster may be given after a person's primary series or after their last booster shot, regardless of what brand you received before. Even if you've already had COVID-19, you should get vaccinated. Right now, at the Native American Community Clinic, you can get COVID-19 vaccines, including updated boosters, at the same visit as other vaccines. However, if you've received a recent monkeypox vaccine, you may need to wait 4 weeks before you can get a COVID-19 vaccine, and you should discuss this with your provider. Schedule your vaccination appointment with the Native American Community Clinic by calling 612-872-8086.
Hi, I'm Jane Fonda, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations.
Oh, that was pretty good. One. Oh, I was the lone wolf there. Did you see that? Hey, Ogimaa, why don't we talk a little bit? Well, first I want to just tell everyone how great a day it was here in the Twin Cities doing Indigenous Day, and we talked a little bit about that with Robert. And I'm just it's really exciting to be alive and see all these great things that our people are doing for ourselves and with ourselves and for the community. So I just it's a daily thing, but it's nice to celebrate it too.
Yeah, absolutely. And this has been a really great show too. We talked about a lot of things, and man, the time just flew by today that we're already coming up to the end of the show. And it's been a really good week as a Native person, I think, here in Minnesota. There's been a lot of events that happened, of course, for Indigenous Peoples Day on Monday. But also, having a visit from Auntie Deb Halaand at Minnesota at McAllister College is great. And there were a lot of really great events that happened over the weekend and into Monday all over Indian country. Just as a reminder, if you're a non-Indigenous, non-Native listener and you're one of our allies, remember that it's not Columbus Day to us. It is Indigenous Peoples Day. I think Microsoft needs to get with the program. My computer woke me up on that day with a little note in the bottom left-hand corner telling me it was Columbus Day. And I was kind of like, get with the times.
We have a little emoji of them, of Columbus and his crew raping and pillaging our relatives all over Turtle Island here, because it's amazing. Let me just say this too, Ogimaa, before you speak on this. I think of how history is always askewed. Do you know what I mean? Lindbergh, for instance, the Minnesota-born Charles Lindbergh, who flew all over the country, was a fascist, and we had an airport named after him here in Minnesota. And so, to have Columbus in 1492 have all these little sayings that we were brought up with, and then find out really, as an adult, really what he was all about, it seems like the way history is taught to to everybody, I should say.
Yeah, one of the quotes that I seen going around on social media said, the school system in the U.S. really be teaching people Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1492 instead of teaching people the names of the indigenous people whose land they're on. But then, there was a whole thread that I seen come through where there was a community that were really angry, and anybody that had said Happy Indigenous Peoples Day was met with Happy Columbus Day. Stop trying to change history. And it's like, history hasn't changed, people. What's changed is peoples are no longer accepting of the incorrect history that we were taught. And, I think that there's a level of trust that, children put in their teachers when they're small, that they would not be lied to. And teachers put a significant amount of faith in textbooks, that the textbooks are also telling their children the truth. And those systems really, Indigenous Peoples Day is really about bringing up and fixing those systems and finding ways so that we as Indigenous people, our truth is told, and we're granted the same level of respect in history and in current times that any of us should be granted. That's really what it comes down to.
Well, and you're too young to remember this, but these things, like you just did the Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1492, that we were all taught and wrote as young people. Let me just say this: the last cigarette commercial was like in 1966, and if I talk to somebody my age, which we were 4 and 5 years old, or I was 5 years old when those ads stopped, I can recite all those cigarette ads.
Yeah, they stick with you.
And
Yeah.
so is the wrong history too, I guess is my point.
Yeah, exactly. They teach you all these little catchy rhymes and things to help it stick in your head, and what they're teaching you is that Columbus was an asset to the United States. And I suppose if we're talking about the United States as a country and overtaking the land and all of those things, I suppose he was an asset, but we kind of return that energy as Indigenous people. I think my other favorite one that I seen said, be sure to leave out a plate full of smallpox for Columbus overnight. And I chuckled, but it's a dark bit of humor when you think about the sheer millions of Native people that were on the continent of Turtle Island, from Mexico all the way up into Canada, that just perished from diseases that were brought with, and that were murdered or raped or pillaged in some other way. So
Did you see the one that said it's Columbus Day, so now go to a store and rob everything and take their land?
yes, yep. Columbus Day means I can walk into any store and declare that anything is mine. Yeah, I enjoyed that too. So yeah, these are kinds of things that are important to talk about with your friends and your family as an ally, and with your friends and your family as a Native person, that we don't have to accept this whitewashed version of history anymore, that there are a lot of things that we can do. And now more than ever, accurate history is really available through internet access, which actually leads me into my first news story that just came through on a press release today. The Biden-Harris administration has awarded $19.8 million to expand high-speed internet access and for the Bois Forte Nation up in northern Minnesota.
Wow.
This is part of bipartisan funding that's been awarded to more than 23 tribal entities throughout the U.S. As of right now, I believe there's been 65 billion that's been earmarked for this, and they're at about 1.3 billion that have been awarded nationwide to 94 tribal entities. So this is to improve high-speed internet access, network deployment, and digital training skills, to improve access to, of course, everything. The internet is kind of where everything is right now, right? So our relatives up in the Bois Forte Band of Chippewa, Anishinaabe, and Native Americans up in northern Minnesota, up near the Canadian border, have really restricted access to high-speed internet. So it's a really big deal. I'm pretty excited for them.
It is a big deal, and it's a thing that even our rural areas, our white allies, and have found out during COVID that you need internet, you need a strong signal in order to do anything. And I think, why we're on 40 stations in Wisconsin is because a lot of those areas don't have broadband, and they get their news from the radio still. And it isn't easy to go Google, what Rod Crew hit in 1977.
Right.
All these things that we take for granted here, at least I do in the cities here, Ogimaa.
Yeah, absolutely. And even where I live in north central Minnesota, it is Generally accepted that we have signal in most places, but we currently in my local area actually have a cell tower that's down, and it's causing major trouble because our school buses, our drivers are short-staffed, and our students' families need to be alerted that some of the buses aren't running tomorrow. So the alert I got said, we are aware of the cell tower being down. So, I mean, it's internet, it's access to phone service, it's all of those things that really tie in. The Federal Communications Commission's Affordability Connectivity Program, which also for short is known as ACP, provides a discount up to $30 per month towards internet service for eligible households and up to $75 a month for households on qualifying tribal lands. If you want to find out more, you can go to getinternet.gov or go to internetforall.gov to sign up for this program and get yourself a discount on your high-speed internet.
Wow, we'll talk a little bit more about that tomorrow too, because we went really quick here. Great day, great show. I said show and day at the same time and said dough. Hey, okay. Wow, making up words here. You're listening to Native Roots Radio, Rock the Vote. We need to resist, divest, join a group, run for office. Free Leonard Peltier. We're still here. We are the 7th generation.
If you're someone that counts on AM 950 to bring you the latest in progressive politics, news, and talk, remember, we can't do it alone.